Welcome back to the Have Not Room. I'm here, as always, with Chad and Brian to break down another week inside the BB22 house. We only have 2 more weeks to go, so this is our third to last episode for the season, presumably. And I mean, you'd think in the end game we'd have a little bit more to talk about, but it's probably going to be a quick one. What do you guys think?
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Probably a quick one, which I'm not sure people will be too mad about. I think similarly, most people are just like, let this end.
Yeah.
Like, this is not what we
Wrap it up.
wanted. Like, yeah.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, I think I saw something on the Reddit about 2 weeks left in the season. Thank God.
yep. Yep. About
Yeah.
something.
But we did get a jury segment in the eviction episode this past Thursday, which was something at least different. It gave us some insight into potentially what we might be seeing in terms of the upcoming jury vote 2 weeks from tonight. Anything stand out from that jury segment to you, Chad?
I mean, it's kind of what we expected. People, aren't big fans of Nicole. People like Cody's game, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see, who's the final two, who votes which way. I mean, some votes are locked, but I think there's potential for a few swing votes, especially depending who goes home these next 2 evictions. So I enjoy the jury segments. I always love jury segments, but yeah, it all comes down to who goes next, who are these next 2.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think what stood out most to me was Ian being pretty chill about what Nicole did. I didn't know if he necessarily would, especially with that confessional diary room where he kicked the table and swore. I was like, oh, maybe he's actually gonna be really mad about this outcome. But after he got voted off, he seemed pretty chill about it, and after this jury segment, same thing. He just seems like he's taken it in stride. He knows it's just a game. I don't know if everyone will feel that way, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, All-Star seasons are also always a little rough with that. But yeah, Ian in general, while he was in the game, kind of oscillated between seeming like he didn't really care at all and didn't really want to be there, and then also seeming like he cared a lot and was really invested in potentially winning the game, especially after he ended up making jury. So yeah, it is interesting. I don't know if part of Ian's strategy that he never really vocalized was trying to play off that he wasn't really didn't really care about the game, kind of Dr. Will-esque. But yeah, I'm not sure. I think the one interesting thing I saw from Ian, on top of him being very level-headed about the game moves, was before Danny arrived at the jury house, he seemed to think that Danny was the one playing the best game in the house, which I think really gives you an insight into how little information Ian had about what the hell was going on this season. Because that's definitely not the case. So yeah, and then we also kind of got kind of a clarification that Devon does seem to be legitimately upset at Nicole to the point where it doesn't seem like Nicole will be getting Devon the jury vote if he happens to be there against maybe anyone except for Christmas. It might be kind of a toss-up. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I didn't get a lot of insight into how David and Kevin were super feeling either way in terms of their priority. We know that Kevin kind of came out of the house a little bit butthurt against Cody. But I don't know if that will make any huge dent in Cody's ability to win a jury vote, because it seems like Danny is heavily pushing the Cody is playing the best game narrative, which I think we all agree is correct. Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't even matter if it's correct as long as somebody's cheerleading it enough in the jury house.
Yeah.
Perception becomes reality and all that.
Absolutely.
But I think this one time, at least, the perception is reality. And, Cody, just killing it. I would be so shocked if he lost this. Don't want to jinx him or anything, but oh my God. He's just so dominant this season, and he deserves it so far. If he can just 2 more rounds, he's there. $500,000 in his pocket.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of this, like towards the end of the episode, if we kind of get through everything else, we can kind of go into some more detail about the exact chances of what everyone has of getting through the next 2 rounds of the game. But I think Cody is looking to be in a crushing position at this point.
Yeah.
Probably like somewhere in the 70 to 80% win equity range, which is pretty insane.
Hey, I mean, we in our preseason thing, we were like, Cody, this is his game.
Yeah.
And it really was.
Chad got the first winner pick in. He just locked in Cody, and I was like, yeah, it's probably the stock pick right there. I mean,
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of like when we drafted our winners for us, rooting interests, I guess more or less. I got Memphis, and immediately that just went so bad for him.
Yeah, definitely. Choosing winners has not gone well for you this season. Devon was first out of the 3 winner picks of us, and now it looks like with you redrafting Memphis and me redrafting Enzo, not looking super great for you in terms of Memphis surviving this coming eviction.
I'm not going to say it's entirely my fault, but there's a little bit of, bad aura in there. It's just, sorry, Memphis. I didn't mean to.
Yeah. No, we can kind of go into that a little bit. We have Nicole winning both of the competitions this week, and Memphis looking like he is going to be going. Chad, do you think that's the right move for Cody and Enzo to get out Memphis here over Christmas? They kind of were going back and forth within this episode tonight about whether that was correct for them.
I think so, because they, Cody and Enzo are, very well aware of the wise guys, seeing as they're half of it. So knowing that everyone in the house but Nicole is connected to him and would, could take him, and at least in Memphis's eyes would take him, other than, Cody and Enzo. I think getting Memphis out now is your best move. As the person rooting for Cody, Memphis is, the strongest player left competition-wise, I think, at least physically. So, and, the first final 3 comps always endurance. So I think it's the right move for Cody. Even Nicole, it's the right move. Enzo, the only one that starts is Christmas, but she's not going to win anyway. So, I think it's the right move if you're Cody, Nicole, Enzo. So, bye Memphis. I mean, it was a good game, all considering. I mean, he masterminded the, on paper, best alliance in BB history, even though they're a very broken family there, but they made it work somehow. And, the wise guys, if Enzo doesn't tell Cody, it's not a bad play. It's just, not the right people, I guess. But, no, Memphis is a good player. I think he solidified that this season. But this is as far as he goes.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that I think his main blind spot was just not seeing that Enzo and Cody were as close as they were, and really thinking that Enzo was a piece that he could pick up for himself, whereas Cody had already had that lockdown from basically 2 minutes into the game.
Jersey boys.
Yeah, so it's just the Italian Jersey boys. Yeah, so I think that Memphis kind of just let the game play by him, and because he was in such a dominant position within this power alliance that he technically built, I think he kind of became a little bit too reticent to make a move, and you kind of saw that during the triple where he was still pushing for David to go over Nicole. Not like he would have made a huge difference if he had been pushing. That wasn't going to be the thing that changed Enzo's mind. But just the idea that David was somebody that he should prioritize getting out over Nicole when his main contender in the game was clearly Cody, and Nicole was always going to be a number for Cody over him. And David was potentially somebody he could have picked up if he put more work into repairing that relationship. I think he just kind of got a little too comfortable in this position. Didn't really make the proper moves, but he also got kind of unlucky in terms of the the comp wins. I think if him or Christmas win this Final 5 HOH, I think he's in a pretty decent spot heading into the end game. So,
yeah. It's always disappointing to see, like, when people are playing, like, a good game, not having anybody go beyond, you know, just, like, the surface level. Oh, I'm in a good spot. I'm in the majority alliance. I'm going to go, and then I'm going to get comped out by, you know, random. Like, it's always disappointing when players who are playing well don't take the entire game into their hands and just let their fate get decided by, you know, friggin' in dodgeballs that look like pumpkins on a basket. Like, you know, I would hate to get really far into a game like this and have my fate decided by a challenge. I don't think that's ever an advantageous position to be in. You can't count on them, and I would like to see people, you know, pick up the bottom feeders and make them part of Alliance and have more forward-facing control rather than, you know. I think it goes back to say when we were talking a little bit about Tyler. It's like there are certain play styles where, like, if you're on the bottom and if you're on the bottom, you're the underdog, and you, against all odds, make it to the end, you have a very high chance of winning. If you're in the majority alliance and you're the figurehead, you're the leader, and you get to the end, you have a good chance of winning depending on how you play. But in the middle, if you're an underdog who can't do anything to win comps, you're not going to get to the end. You have no shot to winning. But similarly, if you're in the majority, but you're on the bottom of the majority, your, like, chance to winning is almost the same as someone in the minority who, you know, can't win comps. It's like playing from the middle is such a hard thing to do because it requires you to take a risk and potentially prematurely end your game with the benefit of, if this pays off, I'm going to potentially win the game.
Right. Yeah.
And people just are afraid to do that. In my mind, there's no difference between 9th place and 6th place, right? In Big Brother, there's literally no difference between 11th place and 3rd place. So, like, you got to take your fate into your hands. And I hate watching people not do that.
Yeah, no, I think this is an issue that we talked about specifically with Danny, where she was biding her time trying to decide when it was the right time to make a move to, like, bring herself from the bottom of the alliance to maybe a higher position within that pecking order. And she had an opportunity to take a shot at Tyler, pull in Ian as a third, maybe build some kind of coalition with these underdogs where she would have some power between her and Nicole and still have connection to people like Cody, even if she, like, you know, goes against him and pisses him off. Like, he's not, like, if he's out of power, like, he still has to turn somewhere. And, like, I don't think that evicting Ian over Tyler is the reason that Danny lost, but it definitely did not do her any favors, right? Like, she bided her time way too long to the point where she just ran out of runway. And I think that similarly, Memphis kind of, you know, lost track of where his position was in the game to the point where now he has really no outs.
Yep. Like, it reminds me of, it's gonna sound funny, it reminds me of David versus Goliath, where Gabby wanted to make a move and it backfired, it blew up in her face, and she went out, and people gave her a hard time for that, but, like, that was the right decision in my opinion, because she was never going to be in a position to win if she just kept going with the status quo. And you know what? It happens. Like, you might embarrass yourself, but if you embarrass yourself, striking out by swinging is much better than going out looking, right? Like, no one wants to be that person. It just strike 3 and has to walk, you know, without even taking their bat off their shoulder.
Yeah, give yourself a chance, you know. Make a move, and if it pays off, it pays off. If it doesn't, then you're Gabby.
Yeah, and I mean, at least you can say you tried.
Yeah.
At least you can, because I'm sure Danny's sitting in that jury house like, God damn it. Like, I was in a good position, and I just didn't pull the trigger on things I knew I should have done. And now I'm in the jury house again.
Yeah, and Danny, like we mentioned, got bailed out a number of times by very
Mm-hmm.
fortunate comp outcomes, and she still was unable to use that luck to her advantage to reposition
Mm-hmm.
herself. Um, yeah. Um, I think that we're kind of seeing a similar thing with Memphis now. We might be seeing a similar thing with people like Enzo and Nicole, where
Mm-hmm.
they've spent way too long and they've kept Cody in the game way too long, where it just might be impossible to take him out at this point.
Yeah.
And it's going to be impossible to beat him in a jury vote. Um, yeah, I mean, anything that we can talk about from the episodes before we kind of dive into this, what this final four might look like.
I like the competition that they did for HOH. I think it's underutilized one. I liked it a lot in BB16 where they played it 2 times. Cody won it on the second time. Because it's like a nice mixture of like athleticism, but also like mentally not losing your focus and letting a little ball roll out and ruin your whole thing that like happened to Christmas in Memphis. So I thought that was a great challenge. I liked it a lot, and I hope they bring it back more in the future.
Yeah, I think they also did do it in BB20 as a veto. I think
Okay,
Casey won. But yeah, I
it
think
makes
that
sense that she
it's
would
only
be the
been
one.
done. Yeah, the ball queen. Yeah, I think they've only done it in those 2 seasons, those 3 times though. And it is a very kind of high skill challenge where you have to have just like very good like core control and like very like it's like balance and like core control and like kind of just like strength and patience and endurance all kind of built into one. Yeah, then obviously BB Comics, the classic. I
Yes, of
believe,
course.
yeah, I believe Nicole Franzel has now won BB Comics in 2 out of her 3 seasons. And her third season, I think she came in second in that competition. So just
It's
like one of
crazy.
those comps where she's just very good at it.
It's attention to detail down pat.
Yeah.
It's so fun. Were there any like of the comics that stood out to you guys as like some of your favorites or?
I liked David versus Goliath. That
Yeah,
was a good
that
one.
was fun.
That was my favorite one because it felt like exactly what he was going against. So like,
Yeah.
I was thinking that the whole season. Like this is like David versus Goliath, literally him going into an All-Star season, and now they
Yep.
make it a comic. So very self-aware, BB22.
Yep. How about you, Ben?
I mean, I think a lot of them were relatively basic. There were a few. There's like the classic ones where there's the references to the costumes that they were wearing with Nicole and Ian, as opposed to like anything about themselves as a person. And then there's ones that were references to past seasons rather than this season, with like Danny and Keisha.
Yeah, not great, but it
Yeah.
is what it is, I guess.
I mean, I can at least understand it for Keisha, but I mean, Danny is a huge like character and player within the game, so it's kind of it seems a little bit of a slap in the face to water her down to like married into the worst alliance ever.
I remember when these came out on Twitter the other day. I was like, "Huh, the regulators really? You guys drew the regulators
Yeah.
of all past house guests to draw on these comics. Interesting."
Yeah, we're gonna hold Danny. Like Danny's legacy is going to be her worst performance season, and her legacy is going to be the fact that her husband put together like one of the worst alliances ever. Rather than that, she's like a 3-time player who has made jury 3 times.
And she got out on the
2.
triple eviction. Like there are a lot of things it could have done with threes with Danny.
Yeah,
But.
one of only 2 3+ time players to never not make jury. Her and Nicole Franzel. So a little bit of a slap in the face. I know we've criticized Danny's game, but I don't think that was a little. I think that was a little much. I think all the other ones are pretty basic though. A lot of like name puns. I don't know.
Yeah.
Nothing really like stood out as like extremely funny or creative.
Yeah, I think, like you said, Keisha's is probably my favorite, which says a lot considering she was gone in the first week. So,
Yeah.
whew, I guess at least they knew that was gonna piss Nicole off, and I love them for being messy bitches for making Janelle's be bombshell and hers be serial killer. Like, oh, so good.
Her eyes like twitching, like.
Yeah. So, maybe that inspired her to win, though. She just like completely blacked out on adrenaline from anger and just beasted out the challenge.
She wanted to finish, but she wouldn't have to look at it anymore.
Exactly. And of course, King Kaser, classic.
The best one.
I think that's for the audience in Kaser more than anything else. I wanted to give him a little shout out. But yeah, I mean, it's a fun challenge. Nicole killed it. So good. So good. And,
yeah, she gone from winning no comps the entire season to winning 2 in 1 week. Pretty good.
She's tied with Enzo now.
Is Enzo only up 2? I think
yes, it's 3 with the safety.
Yeah, 3. He has a safety 3.
Yeah.
Yep.
The banana humping veto that he won week 1.
I believe Christmas only has 2, though. I think she has the HOH that she won by default, and then
No, Ben, she has 4. She's been saying how she has 4 comp wins, and she's been counting the power and
the power
suite as her other 2.
Well, I mean, the power, understandable, right? That's technically a win. If we're going to count that for David as a win, we can count it for Christmas as a win.
Right.
She did not win the safety suite, though. That was she was a +1.
Yeah. So, but was it the safety suite that she was counting? Now I'm trying to think, because she won her HOH where Devon lost the HOH,
correct,
and Memphis lost the HOH, and then she won the running veto that got thrown to her.
Actually, no, she did win, right? She did win the safety suite. She picked Ian as her +1, right?
Yes.
I feel like yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Enzo picked her as her +1, and then
she won she won Memphis's part of the triple eviction veto.
Correct. Yeah, that was the other one.
I think she's been counting it as 5 comp wins.
Wait, what was the 5th? I count 4. There is 4. There is 4. There is 4. The HOH, the veto, the
2 vetoes.
Where is the second veto? I think the only veto
Memphis
she won
is HOH, right?
Yeah, that was the only one, I think.
But in the double eviction.
Yeah.
The puzzle.
Right. Yeah.
And then she got a veto thrown to her.
Did she?
Yeah, the running veto.
Oh yeah, the running veto.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
And then,
all right, I guess. Man, okay, so she's won a lot of comp by default. It's really hard to keep track.
That's the problem, because you don't have that in your mind of her being victorious and pulling something out, and especially it was a gift, especially with the gift swap thing. That always makes it confusing, because sometimes the person who wins the veto isn't the person who wins the competition. It's just a lot.
I mean, so after that, then that means that once Memphis goes, presumably Christmas will be the second best competition person left in the house statistically.
Yeah.
Jesus.
She's a comp beast, Ben. I don't know what you want me to say.
I mean, actually, how many? I think Cody's won 6, right? Or has he won 5? I don't know how many.
I think he has won 6.
I think he's won 3 HOH 3 vetoes.
Yeah.
So it's 6-5, 3-2. So it's not that far apart. We're kind of splitting hairs here.
Yeah, anything can happen. Nicole could go on a streak.
Yeah. She could. These endgame comps, she's very good with the memory stuff and the studying. She's been doing a lot of that.
Yeah, you get to the end, she has 4 comp wins. And other people have 5 or 6, but hers maybe count more because they're at the end and more impactful to the end game. So who knows?
Yeah. We did talk about in our last episode that Nicole's narrow path to victory starts with winning a comp, at least one of the comps this week, to save herself and protect herself, and then to make sure that Memphis is the one who goes to the final 5. And both of those things happened. So she's technically still on that narrow path. She still has to get there with Christmas, which is something that we saw in this last episode, that Christmas also realizes that the only person that she has even a snowball chance of beating is Nicole, and she's approached Nicole for this final 2 deal. So that's in the ether. It's not impossible if Cody and Enzo don't win the comps they need to win for Nicole and Christmas to get to the end together. So
So if Cody doesn't win the comps, is what you're saying.
yeah.
I don't trust Enzo right now to win anything ever.
Sure, let's get into this then, because we're assuming Memphis is going. Who, in each of your opinion, is the most likely person to come in fourth place?
Chad, you want
It's
to take
tough.
this one?
I feel like if Nicole can't win. If Nicole wins, this is tough. Because if Cody wins HOH, he puts up probably Nicole Christmas, right?
Yes.
You'd think. So if Nicole wins veto, I could see Enzo go in there because Nicole would obviously just vote, Enzo out.
I agree.
So there's potential because Cody could likely win HOH, at any given time, basically, especially at Final Four. So I think, there's a good chance Cody wins HOH. It's like probably 50-50 for the guy at this point. So if Nicole wins that veto, which is also possible, because she's done it, apparently she's, comp beast now. So, but yeah, if Enzo's on the block, I think he goes. Either way. So that's like Nicole's one path, I think. If Christmas wins and then it's Nicole and Enzo on the block, that's tricky. I think. What do you think would happen there?
Christmas will evict Enzo over Nicole.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Christmas knows she can only beat Nicole in the end. And she's vocalized that a number of times, alone and to Nicole.
I think this is Enzo's week to lose, honestly. Same with Cody, but I feel like Cody's more of a lock than Enzo to win HOH and safety and veto in general. So I feel like this is Enzo's week here. If he wins, he's good. If not, then
he needs to win a comp. Because breaking it down, if Christmas HOH and either Nicole or Cody win veto, they're going to vote Enzo out instead of whoever's next to the other one. If Cody's HOH and Christmas wins veto, it's Enzo. If Nicole wins veto, and she is a good player, and we're going on this thread that she understands what she has to do, it's Enzo. The only time it's not, is if he wins one of those two comps, right?
I agree. I came in. I ran the numbers before the podcast. I ran through all the scenarios in my head. I think that Enzo has somewhere between a 40 and 50% chance of going at the Final Four, which sucks. He's played a pretty good game up to this point. I do think that in most cases where he loses both Final Four comps, he is the likely person getting evicted, because I think that Nicole and Christmas both Nicole is still loyal to Cody to an extent, and also Nicole and Christmas both understand that they are best suited to winning a jury vote against each other. The big question becomes the situation where Enzo can lose both comps and potentially stay is if Cody is the one casting the eviction vote. There's a chance that he keeps Enzo over Christmas or Nicole if he is more loyal to Enzo than Nicole, first of all, and also if Cody realizes that Enzo is more likely to take him than Christmas is. If he says, "Oh well, Enzo and Christmas are probably,"
it's impossible for Cody to have the veto and those two to be on the block because Nicole's outgoing HOH.
That's true. Yes, so it would have to be Cody deciding to evict Enzo over Christmas, or over Nicole. I mean, it would have to be a Christmas HOH and then Cody veto. And I think that's pretty close as far as what Cody does. But the fact that Enzo is not necessarily guaranteed safe there is not great.
It's just so much. It's just so funny, this round of Big Brother. It's unlike any round in any game where it's just so all about one competition.
I know. Oh my god.
So it makes it fun.
With that being said, though, we were talking earlier about people putting themselves into a position where the competitions don't matter too much. I think there is only one scenario where Cody goes home. And I think that's a Enzo HOH and a Christmas veto. I think that's the only scenario where Cody is evicted at the Final Four.
And that's like a lock, right? Like
that's a
Christmas
lock, yes.
Not gonna pass that up.
Correct. There is an outside scenario if Enzo wins HOH and Nicole wins the veto that she could evict Cody over Christmas, but that's not a done deal in any sense of the word. Like that's there's a chance that Nicole could still basically throw the game and stay loyal to Cody there. So the fact that there are 12 scenarios here with the 3 HOHs and 4 veto outcomes, and there's only one of those 12 scenarios where Cody is in any danger of going home, and he's also the most likely to win probably both competitions. We could probably talk about him as being a very likely lock in the final 3. And yeah, I think that Enzo and Nicole both might take him, especially if Christmas goes at 4. And if Enzo goes at 4, which is I think what we all agree is most likely, then he could still get taken to the end by Nicole if she stays loyal to him. And as long as Christmas doesn't win the final HOH, he probably wins the game. So
is a Cody HOH and veto, it's gonna 100% be Nicole versus Christmas in that scenario with Enzo casting the vote?
I think that's more likely, yeah. I think that he realizes that Enzo is more loyal to him than Nicole is at this point, which I think is correct. I think Nicole is more likely to choose Christmas over Cody than Enzo is, even though I think they both would stay loyal. So I think it's in Cody's best interest to keep Enzo for the final 3 and try and at least convince him to vote out Christmas, even though it would be in Enzo's best interest to keep Christmas, I think. But I think that Christmas would take him over Cody.
So that'd be interesting, man. I mean, at least there's some intrigue heading into the end of the game.
Sure.
You know, we've been on seasons where, like, you know, Paul on BB19 was just a complete lock no matter what to get to the final 3 and eventually to the final 2. And
yeah, I think Cody is more than 50% definitely to win the game, probably even higher at this point. But yeah, I mean, Enzo and Nicole do have paths. It generally is going to require Cody losing comps and them actually making selfish decisions rather than loyal decisions, which is not like the fact that we're even discussing whether or not that like it. The fact that we aren't just saying, oh, of course Nicole would evict Cody over Christmas if she had won the veto, like that kind of tells you how well Cody kind of has wrapped this game around his finger.
Yeah, it's not an interesting game, but you gotta give him his props. He's killed it.
Yeah,
and like I think if you go in and play Big Brother, this is what you want to do. As much as that sucks to say, as like someone who's a super fan and a big fan of big moves, like if you can get yourself into a position to pretty much guarantee yourself $500,000, you can't fault the guy. Like, yeah.
I mean, him and Derek played, an incredibly boring game in BB16, but it was again very effective. And yeah, just like locking people down to the point where like they have so little room to maneuver that they can't even start to make a move against you. It's just it's good gameplay, but it's not entertaining gameplay to watch for sure.
Oh man! All right, well, I'm surprised we got 35 minutes almost out of this. Like, I think we really dug deep into what was out here. Is there anything else you guys like wanted to bring up that we didn't touch on?
I mean, I think Cody's a lock. I think for a win, more than likely. I think the most interesting scenario is if it's Enzo and Nicole in final 2. The worst case would be Nicole and Christmas, and I think most cases Cody wins this, but I think Enzo and Nicole will be interesting. I feel like Enzo wins that, but I feel like that's the closest we're gonna get to like an even vote.
Is the Big Brother community mentally prepared for Nicole winning again?
I mean, it would be funny, regardless of my personal feelings about Nicole Franzel and whether I enjoy her as a character or a player. Like, it would be kind of fun to watch the fan base kind of melt down over her being the only 2-time winner.
Yeah, we have to accept that she's the best Big Brother player ever, I guess, in that scenario. Like,
we don't, though.
Well, we don't.
Just
like,
I think it depends. I think that, like, if Christmas wins out and protects Nicole and drags Nicole to the end and Nicole like wins like 5-4 or something, that's not impressive. If Nicole makes the conscious decision to herself cut Cody at either the final 4 or final 3, I think that that's a little bit more impressive, at least, that she demonstrated that she is playing selfishly, which we've known that she can play selfishly. Like, she threw Danny under the bus the second that, like, Danny was, like, even in a smidgen of trouble. Like, the second that Nicole saw Danny's ship sinking, she just fucking hucked Danny right under the bus and like dumped ship. So, like, I don't know. I think she has it in her. It's just a matter of whether she does it.
Just imagine Nicole being like, Cody, I'm not going to make the same mistake as you did in 16. You're out of here. Like, I would, like, my jaw would drop. I would love to see it as a Big Brother fan. Hate to see it as the Cody pick, but I mean, at that point, like,
it would literally be that
all
good.
hail,
like, yeah, we have no choice but to stand.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah, I'd be like, you know what? Good job, Nicole. Like, you are probably, you're still not beating the best, but you're up there now.
No, look, my primary criticism of Nicole across 3 seasons of Big Brother has always been that she has, like, the ability in her to play, like, very cutthroat and villainously. It's just that she doesn't own it at all, and she, like, pretends like she's some, like, heroic figure, and she plays the victim, and she, like, cries and whines. It's like, if she actually took, like, a powerful stand and cut Cody at the final 3 and took Christmas, for instance, and like, set a line like that to, like, really drive it home, like, I'm stealing this game from you, Cody. This is my $500,000. Get out. Like, that would be like an actual moment where you could potentially, like, be like, okay, Nicole.
That's savage.
It would be an iconic moment. It'd be in all the compilations of, like, the most iconic moments in BB history. It'd be. It wouldn't quite be Dan savagely destroying Shane and Danielle.
I mean, it'd be like Steve cuts Vanessa, right? It would be kind of on the same level as that.
Yeah. But we'll see.
No more Franzel the Danzel, right? Just straight savage.
That is, like, the most frustrating thing, like you said, Ben. Like, we can see it in her. If she embraced it, she could be so likable and fun. If she just was willing to come to the dark side completely and not, like, try to take 1 foot in, 1 foot out approach.
Yep.
But can't win them all. Or maybe she can. Yeah. We'll see. She at least win 2/3.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty. I mean, for all, like, the self-deprecating jokes, like, she makes on herself, it's like, at the end of the day, she did win Big Brother. Like, she should feel like she has earned her place as an all-star. Like, she said that in the episode tonight, like, oh, I'm finally, like, an all-star because I won a comp. It's like, who gives a shit about a comp? You won Big Brother. Like,
I mean, you're in the final 4 as a winner in a season that only had 2 winners coming in. It's like, it's very impressive. Like, just on paper,
I wish someone were there to hype her up in that way. To be like, just embrace it. People will like you so much more if you just embrace this shit. Like, but it is what it is. Same with, like, Christmas. I feel like she takes shit so personally. It's just like, no, just, like, be confident that you're, like, a good, comp player, and, like, don't take things so personally, and people will like you more. I don't know.
Yeah.
She's just such a drag to watch, and it's like the perfect expression for her that I never use. Is she's just a drag. Like, anytime she's on screen, I'm just like, I don't even give a shit.
Yeah.
And then Enzo, my only advice is stop talking such a big game. Cody, don't have any advice for you. Keep doing what you're doing. Memphis, don't have any advice for you, only because you're awful. just a blight season.
He sucks.
Yeah, just an unpleasant dude.
Yeah.
Enzo can sell feet pics after all this is all over, you know?
Yeah, that's the silver lining that he can console himself with.
Yeah.
He already has a commercial, for his OnlyFans. He just cuts that, and
straight feet.
If it's good for enough, and that stalker just really proves there's someone out there for everyone. If you ever get down, there's someone hitting Enzo up for, pics of his feet regularly, it sounds like. So, don't despair. It's a big world out there.
Yeah.
We'll find
man.
Thanks, Brian. I'm getting through it.
It wasn't directed to anyone.
Oh, God.
But no, that was just a very bizarre segment.
I know. Why did they air that?
Didn't have much else to air this week.
Oh, yeah. No.
There's 20 minutes of strategy in the last 10 and a half days. I mean, what do you want?
They want Enzo feet pics.
Yeah. That is a similar segment, I feel like, tonight. What was it? Or just really...
him in the cow or whatever.
Yeah. It was just
there was also him not knowing how a kettle works.
Yep. Just that's the kind of stuff you're like, ooh, this is scraping the bottom of the barrel. Which, a kettle works? Really?
Yeah.
We've all been in situations where we didn't have a kettle and we had to boil water in a pot.
College and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, that's your main go-to to make tea. That's insane. Yeah. That's insane. I'm going to get off my soapbox for this. Don't get me started. Oh, man. All right. So I think we've really wrung everything we can out of this one. We've gone from talking really in-depth strategy to talking about Enzo's feet and kettle problems.
Yeah. I mean, we're just following the pattern of the episodes, right? 60% fucking garbage, random shit that doesn't matter, and I guess 40% or 30% competitions and 10% strategy.
Right. Oh man! All right. So with that, Ben, where can they find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at Ben Sharon. That's Sharon with 2 R's. You'll catch me in a few months tweeting out Big Brother Canada 9 because I don't think I'll be tweeting much about this season for the rest of the season.
Yes.
I'll congratulate the winner maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Chad, how about you? You're going to be tweeting regularly about the awesomeness of BB22.
I might be tweeting about the Patriots more often and silly memes. So if you enjoy those, please find me on Twitter at ChadPerry25, right here, and then on Instagram at ChadLeadJP for just pictures of me doing cool stuff.
Yep. I think the Patriots season has already been way more interesting than this season of Big Brother. So that's safe.
What we really needed was somebody getting COVID during the season.
Mm-hmm. Well, what they really needed was everyone to get COVID, everyone to be like, what the fuck, how did they let this happen? And then for them to be like, hey, we came above it. We rose above our adversity. Yes, your self-inflicted adversity.
Well, I mean, if the season gets canceled week 2, it would always be like, oh man, what could have been this amazing cast,
We would have been talking David and all his potential.
Yeah, all the potential for the season.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so...
What happened, man? What happened?
If only we lived in that timeline. No, I mean, I've had a lot of fun talking with you guys about this season,
this has been great.
Regardless of how good the season is. So at least we got that out of it. You can follow me on Twitter at @theFakeBMar. That's BMARR. I tweet about football and Pokemon and Big Brother, and that's literally pretty much it. And like you said, memes, Chad. Yeah, you always got to stay fresh on the memes. You can also follow me on Instagram at SuperMarbro, also with 2 R's on that. You can follow the channel on Instagram at WickedGoodEverything, on Twitter at WGEverything, on Twitch at twitch.tv/WickedGoodEverything. Rate us on iTunes. Tell your friends, your family, everybody about the Have Not Room. It's almost over. And we appreciate you listening to us ramble about this subpar season of Big Brother. So until next time, we'll see you.